This conference will now be recorded.
Yes, good sir.
So the recording has started.
Yeah.
Moving on to the system. I'm in S4 system now. So like I said, before we move on to advanced planning specific master data, let's see the last bit of SIF. And like I said, this is absolutely not required if you are using a standalone S4. Yeah, this is only required if you are not in S4. If you are still in SIF and so ECC and APO environment, or you are in S4 and APO. It's only when you have SIF connectivity. Yeah. And we also saw last week that even though there is no need of SIF for majority of the master data, you still need SIF for application specific master data. Yeah, when I say application specific, not general master data, that is your product master. Application specific is setup groups. Yeah, mainly. So you need a master data for that. And sometimes when you send a customer, you create a customer in uh, XT01 and say where it doesn't become a location, right? So for location, the plant, customer, shipping point, vendor, for all this, that you need to convey to S4 that it's not just a customer, it's also a location where a planning can be executed. So for such objects, you still need SIF within S4. And we already saw that last week. Yeah, we created a setup group and that setup group we SIFT within the same box. And then we also saw that in S4 before, and then we assigned that setup group to the routing, and we saw the setup group getting assigned to PDS also.
So you do that in PPDS, right? Assigning. Yeah.
Assigning of what?
So basically, you need SIF for locations, info records, source list, contracts, and setup groups, right? You're trying to say.
Setup groups, class, characteristics. Yeah. So for that also you need because we link classes, right? Say for example, we create a 300 class and then we link that to a CDP class. So class and characteristics that needs to be SIFT. What do you mean assign? We didn't assign. We only we assigned in routing. Yeah.
Correct. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. But in PDS, it automatically gets assigned when we send the routing to S4. Okay. So now that we think that we have two different scenarios, ECC to APO or S4 to APO, some of the default parameters which are very important. So it's CFC9 is the transaction where you have some independent settings in SIF. Yeah. So what are those? Material master change transfer. You know that this is not relevant to us if we are in the same because of the checkbox that we have. Can everyone mute, please? There's some disturbance. Yeah, thank you. So if you look at change transfer for master data, one is your material master, customers, vendors, and setup groups. Whenever there is a change, not initial. Initial is the first time that you send a material. This has got nothing to do with initial transfer. This is only when there is a change. Say, for example, I went and changed goods receipt time. Yeah. And any field which is mapped to product master. So the change should be reflected immediately or through a background job is what this does. All the four. Yeah. So I'll say, if you say blank, the changes will not be transferred at all. This is immediate. This is what majority of the clients in the implementations you see that material master change transfer should happen immediately. You don't need to wait for a SIF job to update the delta to APO. Okay. So this best recommended is to normally customers and vendors you can leave it as two, but uh, see, not every field is mapped to APO. Yeah, when it comes to customer master, vendor master, and you see what you have the fields in location. Yeah, so not every field is mapped to vendor. I would rather say leave it blank. Okay, so for us, it's just that the vendor should be there in APU as a location. That's all what matters to me. Nothing else matters. Okay, for planning, from planning perspective, and this could be there because setup groups. Yeah, you can say immediately. And now you tell me, what is the change you do in setup group? Setup group is only one time activity that you create a setup group and you go and create a setup key, and you may do some changes to the key only. Yeah, and other change you may do is description. And you know that in ECC, it's a configuration. It's not a master data. So highly unlikely that we do any changes to setup groups, customers, and vendors. And even though you do it for customers and vendors, for APO it doesn't matter. Okay, the fields that are there for a plant, the same fields are there for a customer also in APO. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So don't worry about anything else. May worry about material only. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because now that we have S4 HANA, because of live cache, there are chances that your business or your organization may run planning multiple times. Okay, so when planning runs multiple times, if there is any changes to the material master, it's best that it reflects in product master immediately. Okay, so this is the recommended settings for a master data. And then when you talk about resources, yeah, so
S- Sanjeev,
resources,
can
yeah.
I interrupt here?
Hmm.
Just because that question came to my mind. We
Yeah,
are
sure.
not doing the change transfer for, let's say, customer or vendor, but we are doing for material master because you are saying that due to planning, some fields may get changed. So, what kind of fields may get changed due to planning in material master?
Think about your consumption parameters or any field which is mapped in a product master, which are dependent on. There are many fields specific to product master, right, which are not there at all in ECC and APU. And now that we have linked, see, only think about who is this asking this question?
This is Shubhajit.
Shubhajit.
Yeah,
This will be only applicable if you are connected to APO system. Okay, in that case, there are fields in product master which are independent. Okay, which means that are specific to APO. That doesn't matter. Some fields are linked to material master. Okay, like I told you, uh, maybe it could be GR processing time, total replenishment lead time. It could be now what else? Consumption parameters. So any field that is mapped, it could be strategy. Yeah?
Sanjay, quick question. So
Mhm.
if I don't have APO, no need to worry about this one. If
No
you
need to worry
everything is in
because it's
S4.
one system, right?
Yeah, correct. So,
Don't worry.
yeah,
But
but
you, like I said, if it's still connected to APO, even though it's S4, if it's connected to APO, then you have to worry about this.
yeah, but then in that case,
no APO.
sorry, I'm just chipping in. So what I was saying that. But in that case, when S4 is connected to
Which
APO,
case?
then when S4 is connected to APO,
Mhm.
in that case, if I am doing the change immediately for the material master,
Mhm.
what may be the driving reason that we are leaving it out for the customers and vendors?
For the customers and vendors, you like best practice, SAP says leave it as two, immediate transfer of changes. But from practical experience, what I am telling you is not every field within the customer is mapped to customer, sorry, location master in APO. The location master in APO, other than the address, yeah, and you don't have any calendars in vendor master, right? So the
Yeah.
calendars that we use in location masters are totally different, which are specific to APO. So I'm saying from experience point of view, there is no impact. You don't have to leave it as two. You can just take it.
Okay. So there would not be any additional burden of monitoring and doing the changes
No,
directly in APO for the
no,
locations.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a independent where we go directly and do any changes. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Okay. So then coming to resources, so you have an option whether if there is any change happening to the resource, that is your work center, whether the change should happen immediately, that is one. And external capacity. Now I'll be showing today. There are some fields. When I say external capacity, this also once again you have giving you an example that you have shift definitions mainly, where you can maintain shift definitions in work center, right? And you saw last week that the way the shifts are created, yeah, the totals altogether, the structure of the entire activities that we do in terms of shifts is different in resource master and it's different in work center. And so again, coming to these two systems, one is APO connected to either S4 or ECC. You actually maintain in APO, you don't get shift. Yeah, we maintain shifts in APO directly, and in S4 also in the resource master we go and maintain the shifts. So think that uh, in ECC there was a work center which had all the shifts. You go live in APO fresh, but the planners were already um, used to the shifts in the work center. So it takes some time, the transition, it could be 3 to 6 months before they get used to the new shifts in APO. If you want to ignore planning to see the shifts in APO and you want the planning to look at the ECC master data, yeah, referencing always to ECC, not your resource master, then you make your uh, work center as an external capacity. Yeah. So the moment you make it an external capacity, no, whatever changes that you do in the resource master will not be read. The reference will be always your work center. Only the changes that you do in the work center will be referred. Okay, so we'll see that. I'll show you the external capacity. Actually, external capacity, as soon as you check it, it also tells you which the connected work center, the name of that work center, the category, logical system. It shows you everything. Okay, and yeah, so here there are some options. When you want external capacity, think that we have set the field as uh, X. Okay, external capacity is set for each resource. The settings here are default parameters. Okay, if you set it as X, if you go and manually check that external capacity indicator, yeah, it becomes a external capacity. If you set it as A, external capacity for all resources. So this is default. Every work center which gets shift to APO by default becomes external capacity. So if at all you want to use this, I recommend X, not A. That A is very risky because when I say risky, there'll be additional work of you going and manually changing it. So if it is X, it's always good that you decide whether it's a external capacity or not. Okay.
Sanjay, quick question.
Hmm.
So you're talking about APO, right? I don't use APO. I just everything I'm doing in S4. So that means I don't need to worry about anything,
You
right?
don't have to worry. No.
Yeah, correct.
See, the entire this transaction altogether is used only when either S4 is connected to APO or ECC is. Okay. So you don't have to worry at all. See, this is something that we do before we set up SIF integration models. Okay. And last week I straight away went to SIF and then I said there is one thing that I've forgotten. I'll start with that in the next. That's the reason I'm showing you this. Okay. But this is it's a very good to know transaction, a very critical transaction. Okay. So change transfer mode. What is this? Today we'll after this CFC9 transaction, we are actually going and seeing model and version management. So S4HANA has version management. APO also has version management. In APO, you have a luxury of creating a model and multiple versions under a simulative model. But in S4HANA, we only have active model and simulation versions. Okay, so whenever you say, for example, here we are talking about resources. So whenever you create a work center and immediately it becomes a resource, right? We use simulation versions in S4 just to do our own analysis. You can run planning on a simulation version to do some what if analysis. You can create some data in a simulation version, your own data in a simulation version. So here it actually gives you some options when you create a work center in ECC, and when it goes to APO, there are three options. Change transfer only for planning version independent resource means it's only 000. Yeah. Change transfer planning version resource and production version planning version 000. And change transfer for planning version dependent resources for all production versions under model 00. So what this means is you have a model which is active model 00, and under that model there are 5 versions. So the third option, what it says, whenever you send a work center or you change a work center, that will be in all the versions of model 000, or the version which got copied from the active version 000, or only active version 000. There are three. Okay, so there are three options, uh, which makes sense. But if you ask me what is the best practice, what we should use, see, I would say this one. Yeah, A is the one that I recommend, because it's always safe to have the changes that you did in Work Center to be replicated to all the planning versions under active model 000. Yeah, that is the best practice, because you've done a change for a reason. If you don't do this, there'll be a lot of discrepancy. You have resources in 5 versions and they are not aligned because of this setting. Yeah, so hence, um, make sure that the changes gets reflected in all the versions in the resource. Today I'll show you this right after this, so if you are confused. And then the uh, validity of the work center. Yeah, so standard, we say 30 days in the past, 180 days in the future. Okay, so this I checked in S4 when I first got access to S4. Whenever I create a work center and when it becomes a resource master, by default it has a value. Okay, so by default it has a value that is 30 and 180. If you want something longer than 180 days, say for example you have um, you do planning in S4 for a demand which is outside 6 months. You may ask why. It could be that your components has a long lead time, and the components needs demand from your order, planned order. So your planned order needs to be created 6 months in advance. So 7th month demand is you're already planning now. You're producing after 7 months, but right now we want the planned order because your components under that needs to be procured now. So I need a purchase requisition. So we have a longer horizon. And if it is 180 days, anything outside this 180 days, the demands outside this 180 days will not be considered for planning because this work center is not valid. Okay, so 180 days is the standard because 6 months is a good enough period. So if you want higher than 180 days, you can always go and maintain here. Uh, any work center that gets shift will have this value. Okay, and if you do go and change here, that will not get changed. So once it is published in APO, you can decide whether it's 180 days or manually you can go and change. It's a field that can be edited, and we'll see that today. Okay. So single resource, multi-resource. So this is another classic example where you know that it's not for S4. Yeah. Why? Because you have many resources here which are not relevant for S4. In S4, only single activity, that is single resource and multi-resource, these two are valid for S4. Okay. And the rest are only if you connect this S4 to APO or ACC to APO, and the rest. Why? Single mixed resource. I told you it's only used in when a machine is used for both PPDS and SNP. We use single mixed resource. Yeah, multi-mixed also. Whenever you see mixed, it's for. Um, today I'll be showing you one more. Definitely, I'll show you today how to actually uh, because now in S4 I'm telling you that you don't have to use it. Then what to do? I want my work center to be a multi-activity resource, or my work center to be handling unit. See, this function itself is not there in ECC. Yeah. So in a resource master, it can be created in APO. In APO, I can just go to the transaction and say create. In S4, the create option itself they've removed. Okay. So any type of resource that you have to create needs to be created in CR01 transaction only. So today when I create a handling unit, I'll show you how to do it. Okay. So this is uh, transaction data integration, mainly stocks. Yeah, mainly stocks, because um, just think about a scenario where during business hours, the stock postings will be very high. One side that there'll be stocks will be issued to the production. The other side will be doing GR and posting the stocks to the storage location. So there is two-way traffic, and in 1 second there could be multiple transactions, multiple people working on stock postings. When this happens, uh, there are layers. In SIF, when data gets published to APO, a lot of things we don't see. We only see data getting posted, and then you see some SIF queues which are getting activated. Um, you have GATP, right? You create at the same time you'll be creating sales orders. At the same time you'll be creating you'll be doing GR, yeah. You'll be doing GI. So when multiple transactions happens at the same time, you need to know exactly what is really available. Yeah. So the table. So this is a best practice indicator. So whenever you go to SAP saying that I have a lot of inconsistency, I have stock, but a sales order is not confirming. So whenever you see any kind of inconsistency which you really can't visualize, yeah. So SAP will say just check this, because this makes sure that it reads the stock from the tables, yeah, the real time. At that point of time, whatever is published is what it reads. But once again, you cannot actually visualize that. Okay. So for consistency reason, uh, just to have alignment with stocks, when you do ATP check, you have to check this stock. And you also have a scenario where you have many sales orders in the system. You have purchase orders, and you create delivery. For purchase orders, you create delivery for sales orders also, right? And last week we also saw some programs to do some corrections for these two objects. There is an object called requirement reduction. Yeah, a sales order is a requirement, right? Purchase order is a requirement, yeah, from the receiver. So as soon as you create a delivery for a PO or for a sales order, there is a reduction in requirement, because requirement was 1,000 cases. I created delivery of 500. So there is a requirement reduction. So these queues are needs to be closely monitored. Yeah. Personally, I say that uh, it depends on uh, client to client. Okay. SAP recommends to use requirement reduction so that those requirement reductions are tracked separately. How they track separately? The moment you check this filter object requirement reduction, the delivery that you create in ECC goes to APO in a separate type of queue called CFFCC. Yeah. See, in CIF, you have CFPLND, means all the planned order related queues will have a prefix of CFPLND. If it is CFSLS, sales order queues, CFPO, purchase order related queues will go. CFSTK or CFSTCK, stock related. So whenever you create a delivery, yeah, whenever the requirement reduction happens, that actually creates a separate type of queue, which is good and which is also bad. It's bad because here, if you check, this becomes for all materials. Okay, so you need to closely monitor, make sure that those queues doesn't fail for critical products. But this will be for all the products which increases the queue count, which increases the traffic, and it blocks a lot of queues. Yeah, hence uh, what I have actually done all the time is that um, if you go to CFM1 transaction, there is a object, yeah, material dependent object called requirement reduction. Yeah, so this can be used for those products which are critical. So if you want to do this at a material level, you have to do it at CFM1. If you want to do it for all the products which are SIFT APO, uh, the one that I was showing needs to be done. Best practice, again, based on my personal experience, I don't do it here. Very, very dangerous. You'll encounter a lot of SIFT blockage because of this. And you know what kind of volume you'll have during the day, how many deliveries will be there. So if go and check in your system, and I know that you'll not have access in production system, you'll never have access. The first time, yes, you'll have, and after that they block this, they don't give access. I've never seen this transaction open anywhere. Okay, I had to take special permission to see what they've said. Yeah, this is again basis the security guys, they have their own best practice. What are the transaction that needs to be given to whom? So even to the project team, they don't give access, or they give only once and they block it. Okay, right. So these are all updating logic. Once again, as for HANA, you don't need this. You need this only when you have integration with APO. This is only manufacturing orders status updates. So, or it could be project orders, yeah, networks. Say you uh, release the production order, you do confirmation, you do partial confirmation. So any changes which happens to process orders or production orders, immediately that needs to be updated in the PPDS DS board. You keep seeing DS board all the time, the production planners. So for them to know what's happening, yeah, this needs to be checked, or else they don't get the update of what's happening in the shop floor. Okay, so based on that, they decide, okay, partially confirmed, they know that it's still not confirmed, um, so that they can utilize the available capacity. They can track what's happening. Say, for example, the order length is 3 hours, and there is a partial confirmation after 2.5 hours. And they can go and see the total order length was 3 hours. After 2.5 hours, they've confirmed only half. And they know that in another 30 minutes, they cannot actually finish the production. So what do? They need to reschedule, things like that. So hence, it's a best practice to have this indicator. Yeah, update logic of manufacturing orders. See, this itself I'm showing you in S4. So this becomes valid only if you, yeah, CFC9 is the transaction. It's
Rajat, quick
actually good to
question.
know. Sure.
So for the option about rereading stocks,
Hmm.
so if we check that, should we still keep running the SIF models if there
No,
is an issue, or we just check this and leave them?
see, your stock integration happens online. because you have an active integration model for a material, right? So there is an so at all time there should be an active integration model for that product, and this you check and just forget it. You don't have to keep changing.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you don't even have an active integration model, that indicator doesn't make sense, and that is only for those models, for those products for which there is an active stock and batches integration model active.
So typically, I mean, the reason I was asking is if we have a integration model just for stocks and it's running once a day or twice a day for 12 hours, once in 12 hours. So if there is an issue, instead of rerunning it, we can let it pick up the changes the next time. If this is checked in, it will still resolve the issue.
See, even if you don't check this, the changes integration will happen. You don't actually have to run every 12 hours. So once in a day you run, only for new materials only you run, right? So it's SIF stock integration is just a one-time activity. Once you do, it stays active forever.
Right.
Correct. So this is not mandatory. Even if this is not checked also, the changes will go. But exact quantity, yeah, if you want like consistency between both the systems in terms of
Mhm.
stock quantity, it's a best practice. SAP recommends you to have it. Even if you don't have it, you'll still see, but it may not be real, may not be 100% consistent. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So moving on to the S4 specific master data. So we already discussed last week. What are those? Yeah, we can actually go to logistics, advanced planning, master data. So there are many things. You may ask me why you need all this transportation lane, all these things. We still need it because we do have transportation lanes in, say, for example, you do any planning between two different factories, two different, say, for example, subcontracting is another classic example. Okay, so hence you need transportation lane. It's not always SNP, PPDS also needs. Right, so product interchangeability and all we'll see later. So let's get into the main part of master data, which is relevant for planning. So when we get to other functions, we can always see other specific, say for example, setup groups and setup metrics and all we'll see later. But now to start with, we have planning version management. That is the first thing that you need to know. The first time when when a new S4 HANA is given to you, you have to go and see whether the planning version, at least one active model and one active version should be there. Okay, so you have three different transactions here. One is copying version to version. You can never copy a version to version of two different models. Okay, so copying happens always at a model level, version to version. In API also, I'm not talking about it. In general, version copy happens within a model. Right now in S4 HANA, you can't even create a model because you don't need it. When you have a DP, when you do unconstrained planning and all you need. So here you don't need. So if you look at, hmm, see, these are all I think the last batch people have created. So normally what is required is just an active model, an active version. Okay, so the moment you SIF anything to S4, or when I say SIF, you integrate, um, it it'll be in active uh, version. Yeah, active model and active version. So if it first, let's see what is there in active, and then we'll see how to create a. Uh, so here you can say change, and then some of the fields opens up. Okay, so planning relevant fields are few here. Yeah. Whereas if you see in APO, you'll have one for PPDS, one for SNP, one for GATP. Here you'll see only PPDS related version dependent parameters. So what are those? PPDS horizon in days. Yeah. See, horizon, it's actually very surprising personally to see this here, because in S4, you have only PPDS, you don't have SMP. So you don't need a kind of horizon. If you go to product master in S4, you don't see that field at all. PPDS horizon is always in the product master. You all must have seen. Okay, that field doesn't exist. So now you have to do it at a version level. If at all you want to have a higher, longer horizon, you have to do it at a version level. So what is PPDS horizon? It the horizon where the demands are considered for planning. Okay, if you have a 60 days horizon, so if you have any demand on 61st day, it's not considered for planning. So the maximum limit is 60 days. If you want only 14 days of horizon, you make it 14 days. Here. Okay. So in S4 HANA, from where the demand comes, yeah, either you upload directly or you go and directly enter forecast. There are some transactions I'll show you where you can go and directly manually create demands. Or you download from demand planning, yeah, and upload directly here. So many ways you can do. But
Sanjay,
the luxury that we had in product master was that every product can have different horizon, but here it's at a version. Yeah, someone asked a question, is it?
yeah, for S4, what we did, we developed interface from IVP demand to S4, which data goes into underlying MD61 tables.
Yes. So MD61 directly, or there is another transaction called RRP1. Yeah, even RRP1 also gives you that FA category demand. Yeah, so there are two ways. One is directly go to MD61, or you go to RRP1. There are two transactions. MD61 is it's actually an ECC transaction. Yeah, RRP1 is a APO transaction. So in both the places you can upload the demand. Okay, so um, this is the horizon. So you know what is horizon, and also when you plan, you need to have a priority. Yeah. So say for example, uh, priorities are defined in product master, which I'll show you when I get to product master. Uh, product master, say you always define priority, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Think that there are 5 products and could be produced on the same resource, and you can plan based on priority. Okay, so your system asks what is the priority, why you need it. Say my requirement is on Friday for 5 products at the same time. Friday 5 o'clock, I want all the 5 products which gets produced on the same machine. So how do you base which one to produce first? You don't know, a system also don't know, you need to tell the system. So you should say that if the requirement is on Friday, prioritize product A as first priority, product B as second priority. Where you define in the product master. So we have multiple ways to deal with that. I also gave an example last week that we can use setup matrix for that. So that also we'll see. So if, and then think that there is a sales order. Okay, you say, okay, for make to stock, look at my product master and determine the priority. If it is make to order for these 5 products, look at the sales order. Yeah, so sales order will have a priority, right? When you go to VS01, there is a field. Go to somewhere you see a priority. So make to order, look at the sales order. If it is make to stock, look at the product master. Yeah. So how the priority should be determined is what this field is all about. Okay. Always adopt the requirement from the requirement. This is when I say from requirement. Requirement is nothing but sales order. Always adopt from product. Product also has um, priority. Okay. So that is one thing. I'm not sure if we spoke about this in our initial session last week. Safety stock account. I have once again in the interactive session, I talk about safety stock planning, right? So then you'll see me changing values here. So safety stock has two types of categories, I would say. One is order series category. One is the time series category. Okay, so this one is consider virtual safety stocks element. Okay, if you say consider virtual safety stock element, it will consider your time series. When I say time series, the value that you maintain in the product master. Yeah, you just maintain the safety stock as 10 in the product master or in the metal master. So that is a time series. That we call virtual safety stock. Virtual is, it's just a number. Okay, and also you can see it, but you actually don't know why a planned order is created, right? Because I created a planned order. When you run PPDS planning, it creates a planned order because it needs to cover the safety stock. But if you go and check, this planned order is created for what? You will not know, because it's a safety stock virtual requirement. The pegging will not. What is pegging? A relationship between a demand and a receipt is pegging. So for the planned order which system created, the pegging relationship will not be there if it's a virtual safety stock. Okay, so what we do is we create uh, there are many types, where we say the safety stock determination could be just a safety stock what you have maintained in the product master, or it could be a calculated safety stock. Calculated is, you'll define a safety days supply. Safety days, 10 days is my safety days. So what is the demand for the next 10 days? So that becomes my safety stock. Okay, so whenever you have such requirements, we have a heuristic. I think it's called SAP underscore PP underscore 018. Yeah, it's what that does. It converts your virtual stock requirement into order series safety stock requirement. Suddenly you'll see a category. Yeah, there'll be a category like forecast has a category FA, right? So your safety stock will also have a demand category. Safety stock is a demand element like forecast. And then when PPDS creates planning, you can see the relationship between safety stock and planned order. Okay, okay. Now what we should do it here. So let's leave it. Doesn't matter because we see both. I'll show you both. You can say do not consider safety stock. If you leave it blank, if you have maintained any value in the product master, it will not plan. Okay, so hence to see that scenario, let's leave it as 2. Okay, and one more, the last indicator for PPDS planning is whether the planning should consider a source of supply or not. You have a material, you have a demand, you run PPDS planning, it gives you a planned order. Okay, so this indicator will tell whether it's allowed or not. If you don't want PPDS to give you planned orders without PDS, okay, uh, then you should have no order without source of supply for in-house production. Okay, so this you leave, it's just that purchase requisition for external procurement. What is source of supply? Purchase info record, contracts, scheduling agreement. These are all source of supply for external procurement. So for us, for PPDS planning, if you leave it blank, this will explore. In PPDS we have 3. So in S4 they have given one more. No order without source of supply generally. So this is what we'll see in the system while we do planning. Okay. So if you leave it blank, whether PDS is there or not, PPDS will give you planned orders. If you have this, if there is no PDS, system will not generate planned orders. Okay, so these two you keep in mind. Okay. Right. Just remind me when in the interactive session, when I simulate this one and show you, remind me about this indicator. So we have to see what happens in S4. It's a newly introduced field. Okay. So any changes that you do here, you can save directly in the bottom. Okay. So creating is not a big deal. Creating is just go here and this is copy from. So you can just say. So just give a number. Planning version is 00. You can say 999. It's as easy as that. Simulation. For you can define some say cheese. Okay, so you can have different versions. See, this is what they do. They have different versions for different product category. But to do parallel processing is something that you need to discuss with your um, basis so that they'll give a parallel processing profile. Why? Because system performance. Because you're copying whole lot of data. Yeah, whole lot of data from active version to a simulation version, right? So, and there's another person who is um, copying 002 and 9. So when everyone actually the copies data from active to simulation, there'll be a lot of performance issues. So hence, when copy happens in parallel, you need to have a parallel processing profile. Why? In basis in a system, you'll have a lot of processes. Yeah, only one processor will be active, but at peak time, you want more processors to be active at the same time, so that the processor so they call them as resources. So multiple resources can be utilized at the same time, so that the performance improves and it's a lot quicker. Yeah. So this is something that you have to check with your basis and mention the profile here. So you can say I want to see detailed results, and I also want to display the logs immediately after run. So as simple as that. Okay. Right. And here, MVM work op. This is the transaction, or you can also go to this. So work cop is nothing but copying the version from active to simulation. And also keep in mind that you cannot copy from simulation to active. Interview question. Version copy happens always from active to simulation, never from simulation to active. Okay. So here you can go, and the one that I just created, it says 000999 profile C. It comes by itself. And if you don't have a variant, you can select manually. Yeah, and you can check all this, and you can define the master data objects. Okay, what are the location products? What is the transaction data? What needs to be copied? Only planned orders, only process orders, only stocks. Kind of transaction data you can copy, and master data objects you can say what are the materials and all those things you can. Yeah, see. So the moment you give that, and you can give location product selection. Yeah, so no restriction, everything gets copied. If you have any restrictions, you can give the products and location type, production planner, demand planner. Okay, with these you can filter and copy, and here you go master data objects. Specify at least one selection parameter. Yeah, so locations copy all assigned to model. Yeah, and here you have location product. Yeah, and PPDS, PDS, basically all the master data objects that you're copying. That's it. Okay. See orders. See here the categories are there. I told you planned orders, process orders, um, everything which has a category. See here? You can select which category needs to be copied to, and you can define the horizon. So you have a process orders created for next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Normally 3 weeks is too far for process order, but you have created for 2 weeks. You want to copy process orders only for next 2-3 days. So you can define a horizon. Okay. So when we have some data in the system, yeah, you just click of a button. You'll see whatever you see in the active version. If you go to the same transaction, say those who know ECC, MD04, like that in PPDS, we have RRP3, RRP1, RRP4 transactions where we enter material, plant, and the version. Okay. If you have copied using this transaction, you can see those in the same transaction there, and you have to enter the version as 999. Okay, as simple as that. Okay, you're not planning anything, you're not scheduling anything, you're only copying whatever is there in active version. Okay, so that we'll see when we finish our first planning. Immediately I'll come here, I'll show you, we'll copy and we'll see the output in you don't have to demand, it's there in our we will see that. And if you want to delete any planning version, you can use this transaction. So this is about version management. It's just a one time, you don't keep doing. And keep in mind, in every implementation, you need approval to create planning versions. It will kill your system performance. The basis would have sized your system before you started the project. The sizing happens based on how many product locations you have. Yeah. What are the different engines that you use in planning, whether you use optimization or just a standard planning, to what extent you use scheduling. And in the peak hour, that is beginning when you say 9 o'clock in the morning, they say peak. Why everyone will come and log in and start working, right? In the peak hour, how many users? Okay, off peak hours, how many users? Again, in the evening, if you at all you have peak hours, how many users use? What they do? So there is a template. If you go to service marketplace, you get the template. So based on that, your system sizing is they'll come up with okay live cache requirement. What is the memory? Yeah, what you would have told this many products and this much of transaction data. This is my horizon. So what is the space hard disk I need? What is the RAM I need? Everything will be there. Suddenly, if you go and keep on creating simulation version and copying data, there is no space, right? And also memory is not there. Hence, every planning version creation is not a joke. It needs a lot of approvals. Maybe one, yes, they'll give, not more than that. You may have just one that a critical user can with a proper justification. You can't simply keep creating planning versions. You'll not be allowed. Okay, so that's about the planning versions. And like I said, we'll after our first planning, we'll also see how to copy with some data, with our own data. We'll see. Okay, now before I go to location master, let's create. There are some activities. There are some assignments required in location. Okay, so what do we assign in a location master? We assign a calendar. Yeah, a plant has a factory. You know how we create a factory calendar and that gets assigned. No? That's at um, a higher level. At a factory level, that's a factory calendar. So we assign a planning calendar also to the location. Okay, a plant, within a plant there are several activities. Plant, you procure into a plant, you run production to a plant. Yeah, you receive goods to a plant, you send goods from the plant. So there are multiple activities which happens in a plant. So that is at a factory calendar level. So your plant is open all the 7 days, but production may happen only 5 days a week. Okay, and you don't ship on Saturday Sunday, you don't receive on Saturday Sunday. So all these things, if how system knows, we define one more calendar on top of your factory calendar. Yeah, so that is called time stream calendars. Okay, so here you have calendar, yeah, it's straightforward transaction. This is called time stream calendars. Okay, calendar, as straightforward as it is. Why spelling mistake? So time stream ID, I'll say F is what we are saying. It's a 5-day. Okay, it's a calendar. It says it doesn't exist, so we'll create it, and we'll use this calendar in our interactive planning. I'll create 1-day calendar, that is Wednesday or Thursday, any day, and I'll make production planning on that day only. I'll take all entire week's requirement and it goes and plans only on Wednesday because my machine works only on Wednesday. Okay, even though that machine is open for all the products Monday to Sunday, but there are 1 or 2 materials where I want to produce only on Wednesday, or maybe from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock only. So all my planning results should be within that period. So there I'll be creating 1-day calendar, but now let's create a 5-day calendar. See, what we are assigning now is directly to a plant. Yeah, production calendar we are assigning. But what I told you, that there are some products which you produce only on Wednesdays of every week, that we assign in the product master, because that is specific to a product only, right? So you can assign it in the location master, or you can assign it in the product master. If you assign it in the location master, it all products that are produced in that location becomes applicable. If you assign it in the product master, only for that product only. Yeah, so you have both the option. So here you can define 1 year in the past, time zone, anything, CET, years in the future, say 2-3 years, whatever you want. Yeah, and here working time with gaps is what we use. I'll show you what is the difference. Calendar, again they're asking about a calendar. We're already creating a calendar. On top of that, this calendar is because this is a factory calendar. Okay, what we are creating is a time stream ID, time stream calendar. Why this is required? So we are creating a time stream calendar, assigning it to a product master, and the moment you start planning, looking at the calendar, it only reads this calendar. But if you don't link this here, Monday to Friday is my production calendar for a product, for example. Wednesday could be a public holiday. Yeah. So the planning cannot happen on Wednesday. So it should be Monday to Friday. Okay. So that is the reason you always um, link a factory calendar to a time stream calendar so that it reads the other parameters within the calendar. Okay. So you can define any calendar, 0, 1, I think, and then click on rules. Okay, so you can create a calendar for shifts, for months, weeks, weekday, month in weekdays, week in weekdays. Yeah, if you do this, week in weekdays, I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so the moment you give this, I have a time stream calendar, which is Monday to uh, Friday only. You can also have just one as 3, so it becomes a Wednesday calendar. Lot of solutions are derived out of planning calendar, especially in food industry. This requirement comes. We always tell use factory calendar, sorry, time stream calendar. Okay, extensively this can be used. Okay, so they'll say, I want to produce only on Wednesday and Thursday. That's it. How do we do? So then they say, I want all the planning to fall on, though my time stream, though I want to produce on Wednesday and Thursday, planning, the orders should fall only on Wednesday. Yeah, starting Wednesday only. Yeah, so then Wednesday, Thursday, I'll schedule. So all this requirement will come. Okay, so for that we always tell use planning calendar and then schedule. This is only for planning. Don't get confused. When you do scheduling for this product, it will not look at this time stream calendar because this is only for planning. Okay, anything which is planned on Wednesday with the help of calendar, the scheduler can actually push the order to Friday also if he wants to do it. But this is only for planning. Okay. If you actually want to produce only on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and you should not produce anything on Friday and Monday, there are other ways to do it. Okay, but this functionality is only for planning. Okay, then you say like this one here, calculate periods or calculate periods, both are same. So immediately you'll see this. Okay. Why it has gone to 2019 is because we have given 1 year in the past, right? So it has gone backwards 1 year and 3 years. So if you look at this, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is Saturday, Sunday, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th, 12th and 13th is um, Saturday, Sunday. Here, first is not there is because the factory calendar that I gave, it's a public holiday on first, so it removes those dates from you. Okay, hence it started from second. And you also have a fixed indicator is nothing but, say for example, on 15th of January, I have done some changes, yeah, to the time. Though it's open from 0 to 23:59:59, I would have made this as 18 only till 6 o'clock. Okay, and I say fix it and save. So next time when you go and recalculate the periods, this period will not get changed because it's fixed. Okay, so for that reason, we have um, time stream calendars. Save this. See, the only difference is, let me show you. If I go, say, create without gaps and with gaps. Yeah, so you'll see that 4th to 6th. Okay, so it still opens up the period. So the third bucket would be 4th to, not 4th. In this case, here 3rd to 3rd. Without gaps, it would be 4th to 4th, and then 5th and 6th is a holiday. 7th to 7th, right? So here it will be still open, because if you want to really decide on that, where you want to do only Saturday, you don't want to restrict it completely. You want to leave it open and you decide. So here, on such circumstances, you can always go and change to without gaps. You change calculation rule. This is what I said. When you say calculation period, you should always uh, fix it. If in case if you have changed anything like this, you should always fix it, because next time when you say calculate, it will wipe off. So that's the reason. So we need F5 is what we have created. So let it stay here. We'll have to assign it in the location master. And I think I think most of you know that whenever you have a GR processing time, I may have to go to the Excel now. Did I? The one that I used last week, where is that? Anyway, let me look for it. See, you have product and you have resource here. Say this is 9 a.m. and this is yeah, this is say, I would rather say 09 and say this is 24. Yeah. So when your order length is say 13, 14, 15 hours, yeah, you're in the DS board, it looks like this. Okay. But if you have a GR processing time of 1 day, so your order will look this big. So this is your order length. You start 9 o'clock today. Actually, you finish at 24. Yeah. And what I'm doing. Okay. So you finish today, end of the day, and then you have 1 day of goods receipt processing time. Okay. In the resource chart, it will look like this only because you have finished production here. So your resource, there is you don't see this at all. It will disappear from your resource chart because the production is finished. Yeah, your production is finished, but your order is still open. Order is because GR time is not finished. It says end of the order is at 24 next day. Only then this can be consumed. Until then you cannot consume it. So how does system do this? So when you do planning, it needs to go and look at your PDS and say, okay, the operation time is from 9 o'clock to 24, and that for that in S4 in APO you need a handling unit. Okay, in APO you create a handling unit directly. Yeah. So let me go back quickly. I'll show you. I go to any of the APU system. So in okay, so we create directly like this. We give some location, yeah, and we say and we give resource category H handling unit, and we say create it as a single activity. I'm creating the resource for the first time, so we say it's a single activity resource, and then we can enter other parameters required. Factory calendar is 01. Yeah, so all these things we do, and then we do model assignment. Select this and say we assign it to them because we are creating it for the manually, right? So in CFC9 I showed you whenever I create a work center, when it gets shift to APO, it needs to be under model 000 and version and all. Here because we are creating directly, so we assign it to a model and then we save. Yeah, and even after saving, yeah, we have to actually see now that I give planning version 000, it opens. Yeah, so a handling unit is created, and then we go to tools, and then we say live cache check. We'll say save selected resource in live cache, and execute and save. So this is the process that we follow. What is this? Checks not available. Maybe live cache is not on. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. So this is what we do for in APO. Yeah. So in getting back to S4, I go to the same transaction. The create icon itself is not there. Yeah. The create icon itself is not there here. And you can actually see the category, but in S4, it doesn't let you create a handling unit or any resource. So because for everything, you'll have to go to your work center, and that's where you have to create as per this one. So here I'll go to CR01 transaction. I'll say F and yeah. Work center category this is a mission, and we can copy from last week FWC1 so that we don't have to classification. Okay. Those who joined today, or those who didn't join last Sunday, go and see my video because I've covered all this, how formulas are calculated, what is there behind 001, where are the parameters, how to link in, everything I've taught in the previous session. Okay, so go back to capacities. Yeah, you scroll down. Here you have called API resource. You actually don't need it most of the times, but there are some fields because in in S4 it doesn't let you create edit values in resource master. So some of if you need any changes, so you'll have to come here. Okay, exactly like I created there, you have to say it's a single activity resource. This is what I did, right? In APO, I said that I give category H and I said it's a single activity resource. Exactly like that, you have to say it's a single activity resource. It's a handling unit, and the calendar, everything is there. So planning parameters. I don't think. See the validity I was talking about. If you want to give any validity beyond 30 and 180, you can do it here. And we'll talk about all this when I get into resource master session. I'll speak about all this, and this is something that I just spoke, external capacity. Yeah, so if you, we will see when I get here. So this I'm saying it's a handling unit. Okay, come back and check if it is advanced planning is checked or not. Yeah, it's checked. So handling unit should be there in S4. Immediately I save. So without assigning a handling unit to the location master, a GR processing time will not work in PPDS. Okay, and in APO, just for your knowledge, if you want SNP to consider your GR processing time and also PPDS to consider your GR processing time, your resource type should be single mixed. Yeah, the handling unit that you create should be a single mixed resource, not single activity. If you create it as a single activity resource, then SNP will not consider GR processing time. PPDs will start considering GR processing. There is a conflict, so be very careful. Okay, so we go to resource master. Uh, W F JND star. See this H has already come. So whatever I did manually in APO, this already we already have a handling unit created. All the calendar, everything is already here. And now I copy this. So we saw time stream calendar, we saw handling unit. Yeah, how to create this. And also keep in mind, one plant needs one machine. That's it. It's at a plant level. Okay. So you assign this handling unit to the location master. whichever material has GR processing time maintained will be considered for planning. Okay, so you need one machine per plant, which is okay. Everybody will agree to it. Not a big deal at all. Okay, what is the transaction for location? Log 3 is the location, and here the moment you give the plan name of the location, you have location type. So if you say F4, see how many types of plants are there in this. Yeah, you see in APO, same transaction. Yeah, so you 003 may not be there, so I'll give 1000. And here you don't have that many in APO. Oh, okay. This is a newly installed system. So normally we have around 7 types. One is for customer, one is for vendor, one is for production plant, one is for MRP area, all these things. So here we are. Yeah. So 1001 is for production plant. If it's a DC, it's 1002. Shipping point, it's 1003. So I'll tell you how to. A DC is also kind of a plant, right? So when you shift that to APO, how does it know it's a DC? So any plant which comes to APO, when you shift that, it comes to APO as a production plant. And then to change the location type from plant to distribution center is impossible. So we actually did it long time with using some, we contacted SAP and they gave us some program. We were able to do it, but normally in standard, you cannot change the location type. So you have to be very careful. I'll show you where this is. Shipping point is straightforward. You create a shipping point in ECC and shift it, it comes here. Yeah. So subcontractor. Yeah. And what else is required for us? Customer, vendor. Yeah. So there are many different types of. Before I actually get in the same system, first I'll go and um, come out of APO system. I don't want to get confused.
Sanjeev Palni here. This
Yes.
handling unit should be assigned to the location, correct? Am I right?
Yeah, we are still coming there.
Okay, okay, okay.
This is our. Okay, so let me open one more screen.
Yes, sir. This is HANA system.
Yeah, because I got confused because I had opened 3 different systems. So hence I
Yeah,
was
you
just
can
making sure.
expand that one, sir, instead of that one. On taskbar, right click.
No, it's okay,
Proper.
Shinam. Let me continue.
Okay. Okay.
Sanjeev, I also start to ask this point. Can we change this color because we are getting confused I'm getting confused. What is ECC and which is per ECC or
No,
APO?
this is only one system. ECC and this S4HANA is everything, one system. Before,
Okay,
when we had ECC and APO, yes, you're right. You need to have 2 different. Now we are only dealing with one system. Okay. So you don't have to worry about colors.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was doing is before I get into location master, I was talking about distribution center, right? Yeah. So that's a configuration. So you have to be very careful, and hence I'm coming here. Production. there is one indicator where where we define that it's not a plant, it's a DC. It's one of the configuration. I need to check and tell you later.
I think it's called the node type.
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
It's usually under MRP, if I remember from my past.
Is it production planning? Capacity MRP mean?
No, it used to be under DRP actually.
DRP,
DRP.
right? It's under DRP, which I'm not seeing, so I need to check. How do we now classify? Because in ECC system, I see that distribution. If I go to production, I'll see DRP, distribution resource planning. There I mentioned that node type, and I'll say that it's a DC. So when I SIF, it goes there as a DC by default. You don't have to do anything. But in S4, I'm not seeing that anyway. I'll find it out. Not a problem.
Or maybe you can try the binoculars sometimes.
Yeah, we can. What is it? Assign node type something, right?
Yeah, node, definitely node, yes.
Maintain assignment of node type.
No, there is only one. I think there's an open question. Yeah, how do we classify DC and there is a way, but in S4 we need to check how. I'll leave it with me. I'll figure it out. Okay, no problem. So, okay, tell me one thing. I think the reason why we don't have it is, correct me if I'm wrong. In S4 PPDS, we don't do distribution planning, right? I think that's the reason why that option is not given. Could be because we need it in SNP. In PPDS, we do only at a factory level. Now that we don't have distribution and deployment and all this, yeah, why do we need a DC? Could be because of that reason it doesn't exist. Yeah. And now you can ask me, what if S4 is connected to APO and I'm sending all the plans to APO from S4? How do we differentiate is another question you can ask me. But I think logically, if it's S4 PPDS, all I need is a production plant. I don't really need a DC because I don't produce any DC. Yeah, could be because of that, but I'll check. Okay, so we get in all the address and everything comes when a plant is created. You see all the longitude, latitude, and all this information. And these are all default values. When you set up the system, you set up business system group and all these things. This is very much relevant in a scenario where a multiple ECC system is connected to APO, but in S4 that doesn't make any sense because it's just one system. Yeah, hence the default value is shown. Okay, so if you personally ask me, basis guys can shed more light. You don't even need a business system group. Yeah, business system group is only based on a logical system. So we have only one logical system. For those who don't know, business system group is only when two different logical systems are connected to APO, and you have planned 1,000 in both the systems. So here you have 1,000. So how do you identify? Yeah, you need to identify this 1,000 plant is coming from which system. You don't know. So hence you have this BSG1, BSG2 you can create and you can assign the logical system to that. So now that we have only one, I don't think this is required anyway. All right, so I was talking about a calendar. See, plant address and all can be given here. Okay, nothing relevant for planning. And calendar I was talking about, right? So you can have a production calendar, you can have a warehouse calendar, shipping calendar, receiving calendar. So even though ours is not a DC, yeah, you can still store goods, right? After production, you need to have it may not be a warehouse, plant may not be a warehouse. Yeah, so you still ship from production plant. You still receive to a production plant. Okay, so you have various calendars that you can define here. And normally when we have GATP, we use this extensively. Yeah, in PPDs, if you have any requirement of producing products uh, on a certain date, we assign the calendar in product master that I'll show. Okay, when we get the production calendar, so we have created one or two. That's it. Yeah, the one I just created F by day without gaps. That's why that X is there. So you have to assign the calendar. And now, yeah, time zones differ. That's okay, not a problem. And then you have a resource inbound only. Inbound, when you do GR processing time, GR is also goods received. Where your goods is coming in to your storage location. So inbound is always, is what you should always give for um, to consider GR processing time. So this is the one that we created. It has to be always handling unit. Okay. So these two are required, and we'll see the output of this when we see all the GR processing time in the DS port. And uh, it's so important that whenever you want to see the orders for a particular product which has GR processing time, I'll show you anyway. Interview question. You can't even see those orders in the DS board if you have not added the handling unit. So in your selections, the DS board selections, you have to always make sure that if you have defined 10 plans in the DS board, for example, make sure you have included all the 10 handling units also, or else DS board itself will have conflicts. Okay, and your orders will not be visible if you have not added your handling units to. See, these are the things that comes by experience only, and I have spent a lot of time. Uh, Back in 2011, I had spent one day to fix this. Later, I came to know that my selection doesn't have handling unit. Yeah, things like that. Note down. We spend a lot of time. It's then end of the day, we look like idiots that it was so simple. But you don't at that point of time you don't get it. Yeah, because you're only focused on one order, and the order has a lot of parameters linked to it, which you really don't think. Uh, for DS4 to obey those parameters, it requires the information of, say, in this case, handling unit. Yeah. So how do we know? So it all comes by experience. Right. So whatever I have encountered, even my nice simulations, I'll make sure that I show and tell all those things to you guys. Okay. So location master is very, very straightforward. And you can actually create a plant and assign it to a model also. It doesn't have to always come from ECC. It gives you an option of creating the location and assigning it to a model. Okay. So that is also possible. So we saw time stream calendars. We saw um, um, locations. So what we'll do now is we'll product master is tomorrow. So we'll see resource master today. Okay, our resource master. What are the fields? So that tomorrow we can start by creating. This takes time. we need to create this breaks, we need to create shifts, we need to create shift sequences, we have to create uh, rates, yeah, factors, we have to create capacity variance. So capacity variance are here, yeah, so we have to create many things. So today let's not get into all those. We will actually understand the fields that are relevant for planning, and then tomorrow we'll get into that. Okay, so you know how why this came. Yeah, production category. You're seeing two resources. So because my selection was WFWC was my selection, hence it is showing both the resources. So let me give this one and get inside. So we have only one resource. Most of the information you can see here, and this also you can see here. So you have a resource category, production category machine in location 0003, and time zone it has taken PST. There we have defined something, not a problem. Planner, I told you this comes from capacity planner group in the work center. Okay, so the best way is to do like this. So we go to capacities. Okay, capacity planner responsible 0001. Okay, so it's coming from here. Okay, it's coming from here, and the time zone comes from the location master, from the plant, not from the resource group. So this will come later. So we have a functionality called resource network planning. Yeah, so where you have a network of resources, and the entire network you group it. So you give a group to it. So that anyway I don't cover at all. So if you have any grouping of work centers, you need to mention which group this resource belongs to. That's all. Okay, so nothing to do with our planning. There's absolutely no impact. You don't have to maintain that. Factory calendar comes from here, 01. Okay, active version comes from here. What is active version? You will know tomorrow, because when we create all the parameters here tomorrow, capacity profile definitions and capacity variants. Okay, so that variant that we create will be linked to this variant. Okay, so let it stay as 3. So tomorrow I'll link my capacity variant to active variant. There could be many variants. So here, what it actually tells you is that you can have multiple variants. It's when you save, it lasts for a variant. So you for any selection, you'll have multiple variants exactly like that for different type of shift patterns. Every shift pattern can be linked to a capacity variant. Okay, but out of 5, say for example, I have 5 different shift sequences where I have one shift pattern where I work 3 shifts from Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday I don't work. So that is one set of information. The other information is I work all the 7 days, 24 hours, 3 shifts. And the other one is I work only Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So when you have different shift patterns, everything can be assigned to a variant. Out of this, only one can be active, correct? Production for next week. I cannot have 3 variants active. I can have only one variant active. Which is that? Out of 3, one you have to select. So that you have to assign here, so that it says, oh, okay, active variant is 3, which is 5 days or 7 days a week, 3 shifts per day with whatever breaks. So that's why you should always have one active variant. See, all these things you'll know tomorrow because we are creating. Reference resource. Okay, if this is not your main resource, okay, there could be one resource where you have shifts maintained, you have another 10 resources created. You don't have to go and maintain for every resource. Okay, then link that main resource here. It always will reference to the main resource for all the parameters of resource master. Everything it looks there only. You need to have an existence of a resource for reference. When it comes to planning, it always looks at the reference resource. Whatever you maintain for the main resource, it will inherit all those parameters. Okay, then minus 30, 360. It's all here. So I was telling you that if you don't even maintain anything, 30 and 180 by default it takes. And if you want to maintain something, yeah, only then you have to give. I told you. It's so exactly like that. It by default system will take 30 and 360 because I didn't maintain anything. So 30 and 360 it takes. If you want, you change it manually. Where you change, you have to come and do here. You have to change it here. Okay. Sort string. Sort string. See, sort string is I would say uh, how I define is I'll give plant, which is 003 underscore 001. And then for the another resource, I'll give 002. The third resource, I'll give 003. So in the DS board, when I want to sort, it will read this and it will sort in sequence. I'll say this is what it has to use. So 001, 2, 3, 4. So it will sort in that order. Okay, it's just to organize resources in the DS board. For planning wise, nothing. And then there are a few things like um, bottleneck resource, finite scheduling, finiteness level. So bottleneck resource, I'll anyway show. It's it when you say bottleneck resource, there is no special function for a bottleneck resource. The moment you tell the system it's a bottleneck resource in the DS board, that resource will show you in red color. The font color will be red, just to identify that this resource is a bottleneck. So we have a session on service heuristics. When I say service heuristics, it's top-down planning, bottom-up planning. So bottleneck resources are the resources where we normally do scheduling. Very expensive resource. You can't afford to change the schedule or you can't afford to stop the machine. And because it's waiting for something. Think that I have a machine which is like $500 per hour. And there's another machine where production is taking longer as expected. Because of that, you cannot switch off the bottleneck resource, right? So what we do, what PPDS planners do is the scheduling will be done on bottleneck resource. With reference to that, the bottom up and top down is done. Yeah, with reference to that resource, say for example, your semi-finished goods is getting produced on bottleneck resource. So they'll schedule semi-finished goods orders. With reference to that, they'll schedule finished goods orders and they'll schedule orders under that top down, but they'll never change the orders on bottleneck resource. So in the bottleneck in the uh, bottom up session, I'll show you both bottom up and top down heuristics, how it works, what are the settings that you have to do, what are the dependent heuristics that you have to use. Everything we'll see, yeah, in that session. Yeah, and the other thing is in PPD's optimization, there is a functionality called bottleneck optimization. Okay, so that will actually optimize only bottleneck resource based on the whatever weightage that you have given, weightage on time, weightage on cost. Yeah, so PPD's I don't think anyone uses that, but there is a functionality. If you go to PPD's optimization profile, there is one tab only for bottleneck optimization. Okay, and this is a mandatory field for PPDS. Okay, where it does finite scheduling. If you don't check this indicator, your scheduling will not work at all. To schedule the orders on this machine, this indicator is mandatory. Okay, so finiteness level, not now, we won't understand now. So we have something called strategy profiles, where we create a strategy profile for production planning. We create a strategy profile for detailed scheduling. Yeah. So we only tell what is the level of finiteness. Okay. So if the finiteness level is 100% finite, uh, you can mention here. And I say when I do PPDS planning, it doesn't have to be finite. When I do DS detailed scheduling, it needs to be finite. So you can this resource is used for planning and also for scheduling and also for rescheduling. So everything has a strategy profile. So when it should be 100% finite is what the level of finiteness defines. Okay, so we'll see when I go to configuration, I'll show you this. Okay, you can actually create different levels, the 50, 100, all these things you can create and you can assign in the different places. If you don't define anything, that's the best way. It's too confusing if you go and tell planners all this. They'll start giving you requirements. Even though they don't have, they give requirements. So it's best not to tell. Leave it as it is. You know, whenever this resource is used for scheduling, it does 100% finite planning. Okay, so the best way is to leave it as 0. Don't worry about it. Storage character, there is a functionality called tank planning. Yeah, tank planning is something where you define your machine itself is a storage. Yeah, a big tank. Okay, you do blending, yeah, mixing, and after mixing operation or blending operation, your milk stays there only. Yeah, oil stays there only. That itself is your storage. So in that, so there we use tank plan functionality called tank planning in PPDS, where you issue milk or the content inside the tank for production. Yeah, so you can actually in the DS board you can monitor what is the total size of my tank and how much of milk is there and how much is of empty is there. What is the minimum fill? All these things you can track. Yeah. So tank planning, like I said, in fact, in 2012, I implemented both to tank planning. I was actually given a contract to implement tank planning. That was in Melbourne. And when we actually did the initial proof of concept, they said this will not meet our requirement. Then we said PPD's optimization. And finally, we didn't go with that. And then we went with resource network planning. And then we realized that resource network planning cannot be working without the support of PPD's optimization. So the dependency was that we implement PPD's optimization, and the client had already decided not to go ahead with optimization because of cost, yeah, maintenance. So hence, finally, you won't believe that we only managed to implement setup metrics. Yeah, but personally, it was a good learning. I had to explore all this and you know yeah, so setup matrix, if what I show you, if you learn properly in then the shifts and also a lot of solutions can be derived out of master data. So if you're thorough in master data, uh, most of the solutions can be met without thinking of complex functionalities, just to keep it simple. Okay, so time continuous capacity. So there are two types of capacity. One is time continuous, over the period of time, like what we define here. So what is time continuous? You see here, it's continuous, zero on each day. Morning, it starts at 0 until 24. Based on this, it runs continuous capacity. I'm not saying it runs continuously, but it's called continuous capacity, Monday to Sunday. Okay. And when I get to PPD's bucket, I'll tell you what is the difference. So here I say start at 0, end at 24, and there is no break duration because I'll create a break pattern. Okay. So when I create a break pattern, we don't need this at all. Setup matrix, when we create setup matrix, I will assign it here. Time buffer maximum overlap, it's actually grayed out because it's already here. Yeah. So if you have any time buffer, maximum overlap, nothing but time buffer is the safety time. Like in at the material level also we have safety stock, right? Like that in at the machine level also you can define some time. Think that I the machine takes 1 hour to produce 10 eaches, and I say I need some safety time, 10% safety time, because I'm not 100% sure. So then it actually considers that additional time of the 10 minutes as a safety time, okay, while planning. So you don't have to go to the routing and change the operation times. The resource time, it will see. There are many ways to deal with it. You can define some, if you define some operation scrap, it will be material. When you want additional time, you have to give this buffer time in the work center. Okay, and maximum overlap is nothing but um, how much it can overlap maximum. Wherever this work center is assigned, say for example, you have an operation A and operation B. So this work center is assigned to operation B and it should overlap. It cannot overlap more than what you have defined here. You have the unit also. 60 minutes is maximum overlap. Yeah, at a machine level, if you want to define, you can define it here. In the operation level also, there is overlap. You have seen the required overlap and all we saw. Yeah, so either at the operation level or at the machine level. So you can ask me which one takes precedence. The work center takes precedence over operation. Okay, and then they've introduced two fields. These two fields are not there in uh, resource master in APO. Okay, which is very, very interesting. You can actually define stretching, allowance at an operation level. 10%. Yeah, you can actually. So if you give 10% allowance in both directions, you can give. You cannot give together, either minus or maximum you can give. Okay, so this is the operation time. If it is 60 minutes, if you give 120 percentage, 120% if you give it, it'll take 1 hour 10 minutes or 1 hour 15 minutes or whatever. Okay, so this is not there in what do you call in the resource master in APO. So they've introduced this. See, if you read it, see, operation takes 10 hours. Yeah, and you give a factor, whatever factor. So it will take that additional time from the original duration. So original duration comes from your route. Yeah, on top of that route, uh, it depends on the order quantity, right? So the reference is the route, and then on top of that, you have given the factor here. So then the time calculation will be based on the route times and plus additional time defined here in both direction. Very good functionality. Okay. Um, then coming to PPDS bucket capacity. So when you say no PPDS available capacity means that it has to look at the finite capacity, which is time continuous. But if you want this machine to be a bucket capacity, you have to define, you have to say from time continuous capacity. Let's go here and do it. Okay, you say from time continuous capacity, hit enter. Yeah. So what I'm saying the time reference should be from this, which is 0 to 24, but bucket schema. My bucket starts on Monday. Okay, so my bucket starts on Monday or from Tuesday. Okay, why? Because we use this several places. Beginning of the bucket, a lot of companies, you go to Middle East, yeah, they start Sunday to Thursday, right? So they'll say all my orders should be on Sunday. Beginning of the bucket. They won't say beginning of the bucket, end of the bucket. End of the bucket should be Thursday. Beginning of the bucket should be Sunday. So use a bucket capacity, and you can use some factor also. Yeah. Um, so this is we'll see. In our planning session, I'll show you the output of time continuous capacity, and I'll show you the output of bucket capacity also in our planning. So here you can maintain this. The first time when you create the work center, you can maintain all this and save it. Everything gets published automatically. Yeah, to this one. Okay, so that's bucket capacity. You also have external capacity. I told you the moment you check this over there, see the origin will be this client MPL client 500. The plant will be 0003. Work center name is FWC1. Capacity category is 0001. So when I'm planning, and if this is external capacity, it will always refer to this work center FWC. Yeah, whatever I do here, maybe it could be shift definitions or maybe setup matrix, whatever I do here, even this uh, you know this the stretching, all these things. Okay, this one in my previous batch we had not seen. Okay, so hence will simulate this during our planning and scheduling session. If I don't do it or if I forget, someone please write down, remind me. Even I want to see the output of these two. Okay, so remind me in the simulation we'll also see. So anything which is here will not be considered because it will look at the work center maintained in as a I don't call it ECC anymore, but it will look at the work center, not the resource master. Okay, so here you have, and you can also assign the downtimes manually. So here I'll be showing you how to directly come here and from the DS board in our scheduling session. I'll maintain some downtimes and I'll see how there are two things. One, before you schedule, downtimes are already there. How PPDS will do scheduling. The second would be the scheduling is already done for next week, say for example, and then suddenly there'll be downtime, unexpected downtime, and then you come and maintain the times here. What will happen to the existing schedule? How do you manage it? Yeah, we will see. And block planning session, we'll see block planning. Okay, so now we say create blocks, nothing will happen. Why? Because block is always created at a global level, not at a version level. So here now you should see block planning. Yeah, so you can create a block, you have to create a CDP class. This is a big thing. Okay, so we'll tomorrow we'll start creating all this. Yeah, and then we will go to product master. We are hitting there, don't worry. Next Sunday we'll be doing our next first planning run next Sunday, and week after we'll be starting our scheduling. Yeah, we have to be very thorough in master data or else and configuration. So let's not rush. Let's go slowly. Any questions, guys, so far?
So after you define this work center, any changes to all those capacity definitions you have to define in that this APO resource, is it? Even for
Yeah.
S4HANA also.
Yes, yes, yes. In APO you don't. In APO you do it directly, but here it won't
Yeah.
allow you.
Yeah, but here you have to define in this SAP APO resource master, right?
Yes, yes. So for the default, the things that you saw in our work center, we did not actually do anything in APO resource. Hence, it has picked the default parameters. If you want anything other than default parameters, like bucket capacity and all this time buffer, overlap. If you want additional data, you'll have to maintain the first time when you create.
Right, but and even for changing the horizons and some
Changing
of
also.
the parameters
Yes.
that you are using that APO resource header, even though we may not connect to APO, right?
Tell me again.
Like you are showing that in order to change the horizon, right, the days.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah.
if you want more than the default dates, you went to the APO resource and then you have to update that, right?
Yes, you're right.
So that means even though I mean, even though we do not want to connect to, if there is no APU also, then also we have to go to API resource to update that.
You have to update in the API resource tab.
Right, right.
That's it. So it's just one-time activity. You don't keep on doing it. Because that you have asked me, I want to show you something. Yeah. So what we should do is this is the program. Say you have defined 180 days. Okay. So 180 days is from today till the next 180 days. And tomorrow it becomes 179 and 178 and it goes on like this. Hence, you should have weekly job you have to run. Yeah, weekly job you have to schedule this so that every time you run this, it extends to 180 days from today.
Okay.
Yeah. So good that you brought this up. So this is
So
the
you have to
program
run
that
that.
needs to be scheduled.
So you have to schedule that program.
Yeah, daily not required. At least weekly you have to run this. See, today I do PPDS planning, so it's 180 days already considered. Tomorrow it becomes 179. I don't care because I don't run PPDS planning every day.
Right.
Generally. So next time when you run PPDS planning, make sure before that you extend and then run PPDS.
Okay. So because basically it does not take from the current date, it just considers from the date when it first ran.
Yeah, when when the 180 days is always from today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like tomorrow it will not be 180 days from tomorrow. It will be only 179 days, right? So tomorrow if you run this program, it will be 180 days from tomorrow also.
You have to run that program. Okay.
Yeah, this program you have to run.
Okay.
Okay, it's straightforward. Capacity lengthen or something like that.
Generally, what is the frequency that we run?
Hey, your voice we are
PPDS?
not hearing.
So
Very
generally,
low.
what is the frequency that we execute planning in PPDS? For MRP, it
Weekly.
could be a weekly job or something like that.
Even for PPDS also we run weekly only.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't run every day unless your capacity or your requirement keeps changing every day, which shouldn't because it's a short-term horizon. You plan and you finalize for next week's production.
Okay.
Okay, cool then. So anybody, any other questions?
Sir, this is the Raja. So you remember we were talking about the node type. So I saw the SAP has suggested a note. They have given a T code to maintain that node type. It's not in the SPRO for some reason, and that T code is very long. I don't know why they complicated it, but just letting you know.
Yeah. Actually, even this handling unit, right, that I showed you, even in the fresh box, you don't get that function. You need to implement a node correction. Yeah, only then that handling unit comes up. Like that for node also they have given. Is it anywhere? Let me check that. So you mean to say that transaction code that we have to run doesn't come as standard? You'll have to implement a
No,
node
it is.
only then?
No, it is there. You can try S underscore ALR underscore 87001735. The T code.
Yeah. So S underscore. Let me just go here so that I don't forget.
Yeah.
S underscore
ALR Alpha Lion Romeo underscore 87001735.
IMG. DRP. This is what we are looking for. Exactly this. So this was straightforward configuration. I think you are using it. Huh?
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me come out.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me come.
That's fine.
Yeah,
So this
I
is what
came
we are
out.
looking for, where we go and say this is a DC. Hey, thanks for that. So we say we'll select the plant and say it's a distribution center, so that when this becomes a location in S4 PPDS, it comes with a different location type 1002. Hey, thanks for this. Because in
Yeah,
the
no problem.
previous batch, I never told them this. That's why I've not. Suddenly, this came up when I was teaching the location types. Good. Okay. Thanks, guys. If you don't have any questions, we can start tomorrow fresh.
Hey, Sanjeev, just one quick question on the SNP. Like like on the APU side, if we have any kind of error, like let's say the planned order is not converted to a production order, so where we can go and check this, is it like in that CCR or the key monitor where we can find these errors?
You mean to say when it's connected to APO?
Yeah, when it's connected to APU and for some reason like we are trying to convert a planned order to a production order, but it's just, I mean the conversion box is checked, but it's still not doing it. It's such kind of errors where we can verify that.
So you are encountering that problem, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just quickly tell you where. See, the main reason why you don't get order get converted is as a first check. What you should do, you should go to CO01 or COR1 and create a production to check whether you have all the supporting data to create a process order. It could be configs, it could be supporting master data. Whether in ECC you are able to create a production order manually or not is what you should check. If you are able to check that, create,
Yeah, we can
then
create it from like if you go to MD 04 there we can convert in ACC.
okay. So which means that uh, the issue could be production. Say I can show that in S4 only. The main reason why you cannot convert is because of this. When you convert, it needs to know what order type that should be, whether it's PP01, ZB01, whatever it is. So that information it gets only in production scheduling profile. Okay, so go and check for that material whether production scheduling profile is maintained or not. So if it's maintained 04, this should be the only reason why you cannot SIF. But to be specific why, you have to go here in this transaction CPP1, okay, and the target system you have to give APO order category or whatever, yeah, say in-house production, yeah, in-house production, and this is not mandatory, yeah, you say production order, planned order, production order, 5 and 6 both you give, okay, and then here you can say I want to see based on location. So in your plant, whatever orders, everything will show. Okay, and then this one, let it be according to when you execute, it will show all the errors that came up.
Okay.
So if you go and go to RRP7 and send the planned order to production order, it's a lot easier. You can see initiator. You can give your username. Initiator is the username. So if you give your initiator here and execute, it will show exactly what the error is. I cannot show because this is a brand new system here. I don't have any data.
Yeah,
Okay.
understood. Yeah.
Execute,
And
it will
also, I
show all
think
the errors. Double click it. Immediately it will show you the log, why it's not going. So you'll get the information. You can fix it.
Okay.
sometimes I noticed even the IM models, the batch jobs did not run from a long time. So sometimes the model can be inactive.
You mean to say that because of
The,
integration model inactive, is it?
yeah, the orders may not be flowing only for that
Yeah,
transactional object.
correct. So that could be one of the reasons, but that is very unlikely because most of the all the integration models will be all the time active. That is, you
Yeah.
can actually check that also, but the likely cause is this only.
But yeah, but in that case, none of the orders should flow, right? But this, if some particular
Yeah.
cases, then
That's right.
like
That is right. And also, if integration model issue directly in CCR, you go and give that material, it shows no integration model active directly. Yeah. So in CCR also you can catch that.
Okay.
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 Cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thanks everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.